Welcome to Tuesday, November 24th, 2020. Well, this Thanksgiving week's weather is ending up not looking all that bad. We do have another storm system on the way for Thursday, but it's going to split. It's going to break apart into two pieces, which is really going to eliminate the chance that it's going to become a big storm in the Rockies or the high plains. The system that's going through right now did bring some good snow to parts of the high country of Colorado and a little bit of moisture onto the plains, but it's moving away. We're going to have a fairly cool, quiet stretch of weather through Thanksgiving weekend as it looks right now with that storm splitting. Now, the long-range forecast is still really murky. We'll take a look at that. And we're also going to take a look at some more La Niña information. Now, this is where we are today. This is a really wavy pattern. We've got the storm system that is affecting us today down in northern New Mexico. It's a quick mover, headed off to the east fairly quickly. So if you're in especially Colorado, parts of Nebraska or Kansas, and you're getting snow right now, by late afternoon and evening, that'll all be clearing on out. Now, here's the next system. It looks quite impressive. There's a good amount of cold air, good amount of moisture with this system. However, as this system heads southeast, it's going to run into a splitting jet stream. And what'll happen, even though it holds together, this is by tomorrow morning, we start to see it get fractured a little bit. Today's low heads towards the Great Lakes. This system is heading southeast. And by the time we get into Thursday, notice we've got a piece of the storm here and a piece of the storm here. So it splits apart. It splits apart and gets stretched. And so what happens is right here in the area where it's splitting, yes, you've got some cold air. Yes, you've got the potential for some flurries and light snow showers. But since the storm is not holding together, if you watch its progression from the coast of British Columbia to the Pacific Northwest tomorrow, then by Thursday morning, it gets ripped apart. So for Colorado, Wyoming, the split is going to negate this system becoming a major weather maker. There'll be a little more snow in the high country. It will bring in some colder temperatures for Thanksgiving Day, but it's not going to be a major player. And this is what the precipitation looks like with it. The Pacific Northwest up here does pretty good. The Tetons, Jackson, parts of Idaho, Pacific Northwest. But as you note, as the storm gets further south and east, the moisture gets less and less. And east of the divide, well, basically you don't have anything. Now there will be bigger travel concerns in this part of the nation here, as they're going to get some winter weather. So if you're traveling into those parts of the nation on Thanksgiving, that's where most of the active weather is going to be. By Saturday, that low that gets broken off, we talked about it maybe meandering and hanging over Colorado. Well, now it's looking like this part of the jet stream is going to pick it up and bring it more east. So while we've got a low over southern Colorado and northern New Mexico here on Saturday, there will be some rain and snow shower activity here, but over a small area. So if you're traveling I-25 into New Mexico through Raton Pass on Saturday, you may encounter some rain and snow there, but elsewhere it won't do much as it's going to hook up with this coming in and then head towards the Midwest. So we probably won't have too much weather in our neck of the woods this weekend. By Sunday morning, you can see it skedaddling off to the east and a bit of a high pressure ridge building in behind it as we get into late Saturday night, Sunday, and into early Monday. But we've got this guy coming in behind it. What is it going to do? That is a great question because we have a lot of disagreement. If you take it for what the models are showing, look at what happens. It really amplifies big ridge, and we get a big deep trough over the central high plains and also a big storm over the Great Lakes. Honestly, folks, this pattern here is very suspect. I'm not sure I believe the models here. This would be an impressive cold storm system right around the 1st and 2nd of December if it comes to fruition. But take this with a grain of salt. This would be our next weather maker right around Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and next week. So we'll keep an eye on this for you. Now let's talk a little bit about what the overall weather pattern is doing to help explain kind of what's going on here for the month of November so far. Here's our sea surface temperature pattern with La Niña, very robust, still in place. The warm pool up here in the North Pacific remains, although this warm pool has drifted a little south here recently. Sea surface temperatures cooling off a little bit here. and sea surface temperatures getting a little bit colder there just northwest of Hawaii. So we've got a little changing conditions up here. But basically the point here is to show you La Niña is here to stay through the winter. What tends to happen, if you were to go back and look at 50, 60 years of snowfall, October through April in La Niñas, anywhere you see blue, you have above average snowfall. This is for snowfall patterns. Anywhere you see brown, you have below average snowfall patterns. And this is something that we have seen really so far. The Pacific Northwest, these are the areas, all this area right here, this is exactly what we've seen so far. That's where the above snowpacks are currently. Now notice the Colorado mountains, the Black Hills, the Bighorns here also get into above average snowfall. This snow here tends to come December, January, February. This tends to be basically following all winter season. But notice the trends east of the divide. You see this patch of brown here below average snowfall? This La Niña pattern is really no different than the other ones we've seen. The plains tend to have less snow, the mountains more. This is especially true up here. But as the course of this winter season goes along, this is where you're going to see the above normal snowfall using La Niña, just using La Niña as the tendency. Now, there's always differences between every La Niña, but if you really look at tendencies and patterns, this is where you tend to see the bigger snowfall happen during the course of the winter. Notice that this part of the country here just does not get a lot of winter weather in a La Niña. La Niña winters are hardest in those northern latitudes up here. Alaska gets really snowy in a La Niña pattern. Now, two things to point out. I want to show you, and this gets a little bit complicated, but it helps you explain different parts of how La Niñas will behave. During a warm phase of La Niña, which is basically what we've been in here during the month of November so far, the jet stream tends to just basically move more west to east or northwest to southeast, kind of like it's what it's doing right now. Now, there's something called the Arctic oscillation and the North American oscillation. And this is something that really will dictate how a La Niña behaves. When the Arctic oscillation, which is basically a difference in air pressure between the North Pole and the lower latitudes, you tend to have a difference in how the La Niña behaves. In a positively warmed phase Arctic oscillation, you have a mild La Niña. When you go to a negative phase of the Arctic oscillation, the Arctic opens up, and the Arctic cold has an opportunity to come south in the United States. This is something that we may see in this part of the country in the month of December. We'll have to see. But right now, we're in this warm phase of the Arctic oscillation, so La Niña is going to be more often mild. The reason I bring this up is there's a hint of maybe going into a colder phase of the Arctic oscillation in early December. The computer modeling, this is December 1st right here. I want you to follow this black line. This black line right here basically is a neutral Arctic oscillation. Anything below that line is a negative Arctic oscillation. This is a positive one. Note that where we have been, and this is where we are right now, we're in a positive Arctic oscillation. But right when we get to early December, which is right here, the Arctic oscillation trends to zero or goes below zero, or basically we go into a negative phase. So if we were to just basically look at big, large-scale weather patterns and kind of ignore the modeling in terms of where the lows and the highs are going to be, the negative Arctic oscillation combined with the La Niña should mean that sometime in early December, we should see some colder weather. Whether or not that's going to be associated with a lot of snow is something yet to figure out. Thanks for watching and listening to the Day Weather Podcast. We'll talk to you on Wednesday.